Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a new stack of material. We're pulling back the curtain on some core concepts from an HPE 0-G04 exam guide. Specifically, we've got these excerpts, right? Practice questions and their detailed explanations.
That's right. And, while the sources do give us the exam basics, it's proctored, 90 minutes, 50 questions, 65% to pass. English only, that's not really our main focus for this deep dive.
Absolutely not. Our mission here is to, well, go beyond just the Q&A. We want to unpack the fundamental ideas in this source material about, the Morpheus appliance and related stuff.
Exactly.
We're using these questions like springboards to guide us through the key functions, the roles, everything the source describes within this Morpheus environment.
It's about getting the essential knowledge nuggets underneath the exam concepts.
We want you to understand why these things matter, not just, click the right radio button.
Precisely. It's about the why.
Okay, so let's get into it, starting with the real heart of the platform, according to this material, the Morpheus appliance itself. When the source asks about its main role, what's the key takeaway?
Well, the source is pretty clear on this one. Its primary role is being the orchestration engine and the main management interface.
Orchestration engine and management interface. Okay, so it's not just like one specific tool, but more the central hub.
Spot on. The explanation in the source calls it the core platform. It gives you that unified view, that control panel, and the power to orchestrate.
Orchestrate
meaning it handles deploying, managing, automating your resources, whether they're in the cloud, on-prem, doesn't matter. It brings it all together.
Gotcha.
And the material specifically says it's not just a container registry or, a simple storage box. Its job is managing those bigger deployments and workflows.
Right, so it's the brains of the operation, coordinating everything. That actually links nicely to how you define what gets deployed. The source brings up Morpheus blueprints. Based on what we're seeing here, what's their main job?
Blueprints. Okay, the source defines them as deployment templates. And the key thing is they're for automation.
Deployment templates for automation. So what's the big deal about the template part and the automation part, according to the explanation?
Well, the source explains that blueprints describe the configuration, how something should be set up, and also the automation workflows that go with it.
Okay.
They're like the instruction manual, really. Right. Telling the system how to automatically build and deploy an application or, some infrastructure piece.
So it packages it all up.
Exactly. For consistency, repeatability.
Yeah.
It's all about that automation.
Standardizing things through templates. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially when things get complex.
Definitely.
Okay, so you've used a blueprint to define what you want. Now you need resources for it. Storage, for instance.
Right.
The source talks about allocating storage when you provision an instance. What part of Morpheus handles that, according to this material?
The source points directly to the storage pool. That's what handles the allocation during provisioning.
A storage pool?
Yeah.
What does that actually mean in this context? Is it just a bunch of disks?
Sort of, but it's more abstract. The explanation calls them collections of storage resources. Morpheus uses these pools to dish out storage to new instances as they spin up.
So it's like a layer on top.
Yeah, it abstracts the underlying details. You don't have to worry about which specific device. It just manages the available capacity and makes it easy to grab what you need. It pools it.
Okay, pools the capacity. Got it. Simplifies getting storage for new deployments. Makes sense. Now, moving on from just getting resources, you need to track them, right? Keep an eye on usage.
Absolutely vital.
This guide mentions monitoring, reporting, specifically alerts based on resource usage. Where does the source say you set those up?
According to the source material, those alerts. They're configured in monitoring policies.
Monitoring policies, okay. And what do these policies let you actually do?
The explanation highlights that they let you define thresholds, limits, and the rules for alerting when resource use hits those limits. It allows for proactive notifications. You get a heads up before something potentially becomes a major problem.
Proactive alerts based on rules you set. Yeah, that sounds pretty powerful.
It is.
Yeah, okay, well, alerts are good for specific warnings. Sometimes you need the bigger picture, right? Overall usage.
The overview.
Where does the source say admins can find those kinds of comprehensive usage reports?
The material points to the reports section, specifically under analytics.
Reports analytics. Got it. And what kind of info does the source say you find there? Why is that useful?
Well, it's described as giving insights into resource consumption, naturally, but also user activity and just general system usage.
Okay.
The source implies this is really crucial for admins, right? To monitor what's going on, spot trends, maybe find places to optimize things. It's the data hub for understanding usage.
Right, the data to see what's actually happening. Okay.
Right.
So we've touched on the appliance as the core, blueprints for deployment, storage pools for resources.
Monitoring policies for alerts, and reports for the big picture on usage.
Exactly. Let's shift gears a bit now. Let's talk about controlling who gets to do what. Access control, security, and maybe a few more automation details.
Sound good.
The source material brings up different roles within Morpheus. Which role is described as the one managing tenant settings and infrastructure?
The role identified for that in the source is the tenant admin.
Tenant admin, okay. And what's their scope? How much power do they have based on this material?
The explanation is clear. Tenant admins have the highest level of control, but only within their specific tenant.
Within their silo.
Exactly. They manage settings, infrastructure, users, roles, but only for that tenant. The source notes this separates them from other roles that have, more limited permissions.
So powerful but contained. Okay. And building on that, the source also asks about assigning a user to a tenant. What does that assignment actually control, fundamentally?
Assigning a user to a tenant, according to the source, that controls their resource access.
Resource access, plain and simple.
Pretty much. The explanation stresses that this assignment defines what resources and what operations that user can access or perform, and crucially, only within that tenant's scope.
Right.
It's fundamental for multi-tenancy. Keeps things separate, ensures users only touch what they're supposed to.
Key for security, key for isolation.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, now let's think about automated systems getting access.
Like scripts or tools.
Yeah. The source asks about the usual type of credential for authenticating with cloud APIs. What does it specify?
The source says an API token is typically used for that kind of cloud API authentication.
An API token. Is there a reason given why that's the go-to?
Yes, the explanation points out that API tokens are secure, first off, and they're commonly used specifically for automated API requests.
Okay, designed for automation.
Right. And a key point it makes is that, unlike maybe a user password or an SSH key, these tokens provide scoped access. You can limit what the token can do.
Limited permissions. And they're revocable. You can grant access just for specific tasks and then easily cancel that token if you need to, without affecting other things.
Scoped and revocable. Yeah, those sound like really important security features for anything automated.
Definitely.
Speaking of automation, another function the source mentions is backup scheduling. What's the core idea there, according to this material?
The source boils it down to this.
Yeah.
Its key function is to automate snapshot creation.
Automate snapshot creation. Simple as that.
Pretty much. The explanation is quite direct. Scheduling backups just means setting up the system to automatically create those snapshots, copies of data or systems at set times.
Takes the manual work out of it.
Exactly. Automating that crucial data protection step.
Automation really is a thread running through all of this, isn't it?
It seems central to the platform, based on these descriptions.
The source also touched on scripting languages, the ones used within Morpheus automation tasks. It asked which language is not commonly supported. What did the material say?
Okay, the one listed as not commonly supported, according to the source, was Java.
Java. Interesting. And which ones did it list as being commonly supported?
It specifically mentioned shell script, PowerShell, and Python. Those are the ones listed as common for this type of automation.
Any reason given for why Java isn't typical here?
The explanation touches on it briefly, mentions it's compiled, maybe a bit more heavyweight compared to scripting languages for these kinds of tasks.
Okay, so shell, PowerShell, Python are the usual suspects for scripting in this context, with Java called out as less common, at least according to the specific source.
That's what the material indicates, yes.
Right. So here's something to chew on, based purely on what we've discussed from these sources. If you're a tenant admin using just these tools and concepts described here, what do you think might be the biggest hurdle in trying to really optimize resource use and manage user access effectively within your tenant?
That's a good question to ponder. Given the tools described, where might the practical challenges lie for that admin? Something for you, the listener, to think about.